Hey, Rooted family, welcome back to part 2 of our biblical friendship conversation. I hope you have had a great week. I hope you haven't killed your little siblings yet. Be nice to your siblings. Hope your little siblings haven't annoyed the big siblings too much. Question of the day, have you been practicing courageous honesty, right? Have you been practicing the honesty that says, I'm going to have a commitment to the truth no matter what? Tell me, how has it gone? What are some of the things that you've experienced with it? Has it caused tension? Before we get too deep into our conversation today, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell if you haven't. That way you can be caught up on all the media that we produce over the next couple of weeks. This week is Easter. We have Easter coming up, so we get to celebrate our risen King, and I am excited to celebrate with you. Join us this coming Sunday for our first ever live broadcast. We'll see how that goes. I'm pretty excited about it. Adrian, are you excited about it?
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be fun. So we've been working hard on that. We're excited to see what God is going to do in our church through this season of social distancing. And so we know God has a plan. And as we began to talk last week, there's going to come a time when we're getting back to our friendships, right? We're getting back to our lives, and we get to experience friendship, and we're talking through what it means to have godly biblical friendships. And last week we talked about the idea of courageous honesty versus brutal honesty, and we began to unpack that. And we ended with this idea that courageous honesty is built out of love and it builds people up, where brutal honesty comes out of spite and really just tries to tear people down. And we want to practice courageous honesty. We want to be people who are courageously honest. But sometimes, even when we are courageously honest, even when we're speaking truth out of love, when we're speaking truth out of this desire to build, it causes offense, right? It causes tension in a relationship. And so what do we do with that tension? Where do we go with that? When the tension comes, when this friction comes between me and my brother, or me and my sister, or me and my parent, or whoever, where do we go with that? And so let's go back to our passage, Ephesians chapter 4, and we're going to start again in 25 and recap and move to the next stage. Ephesians 4 verse 25 says, "Since you put away lying, speak the truth, each one to his neighbor. Because we were members of one another, be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and do not give the devil an opportunity." All right. So, as I said last week, this series, this lesson is being brought to you by Paul David Tripp's A Mess Worth Making. And when this courageous honesty comes, and when this courageous honesty forms these offenses, right, and this tension is formed, where do we go? And verses 26 and 27 are very clear about what we do. And I'm going to read them one more time. "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and do not give the devil an opportunity." Right? When the tension comes, we have to process the offense. Okay, what do I mean by process the offense? It's Paul here is given the people of Ephesus a right to be upset. Okay, you have a right. It's okay to be angry, right? Good theology, a good understanding of who God is brings out the full spectrum of our emotions, right? Read the Psalms. David was regularly angry at God and at others, right? You have a right to be offended. You have a right to be angry. What you do not have is a right to let your anger fester, right? When we're offended by somebody, when somebody says something that offends us, we do not have the right to steep on it and to stew on it. And let me tell you, friends, I'm the worst. The worst. You can ask Emily. I have a tendency to go home and just let it stew. And you know what? This is what I'm going to say. I'm a verbal processor. I process my thoughts out loud. I don't have much of an inner monologue. And the ones there is pretty boring. And so I just talk about it and stew on it and fester. And anger that festers corrupts. It like anything that festers, like an open wound, right? Have you ever seen an open wound that you just kind of let fester? Adriana has that nasty face voice. It gets black and it gets gross real quick. It starts to smell and to stink and right? That's a picture for you. I had a friend, just to tell you a little bit of my story. I had a friend in college who we were very close, and he started distancing himself from me. I don't know what. I didn't notice it. I didn't know, and nothing happened. And then the night before I moved to Connecticut, he sends me this like 3-page email, Facebook message that essentially says you're an awful human being. You use people. You don't care about others' feelings. Da 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 da. And I messaged him back and said, whoa, instantly. I said, whoa, brother, what is going on? Let me call you. He wouldn't answer my calls. And just what had happened is I had offended him somewhere down the road. I didn't know it, didn't realize it, but I had done that. And he let this offense fester and fester and fester and fester and grow and grow and grow within him until he got to the point where it oozed out, exploded out all over me. And I was shocked. I was bowled over, right? It hurt me deeply, right? That's what offenses do, and we let them grow inside of us. Oftentimes, I've offended people, and you've probably offended people, and they come to you and said, "Hey, this has offended me," and you're like, "What? I didn't even realize I did that." Right? More often than not, when somebody offends you, it's not on purpose, right? They don't realize it. Now, sometimes some people are vindictive and they'll do that, but they don't realize that they've offended you, and when we let it fester, when we let it grow inside of us, it becomes dangerous, really dangerous. And this is why Paul says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. It's not that he's saying you have to deal with it. Don't. A lot of people are like, oh, we don't ever go to bed angry. We don't ever fight and go to bed. No, he's saying deal with your anger instantly, right? Go to the person with a level head and talk it out. Have a dialogue, because more often than not, the person is not going to recognize what they've done. So you got to process that. You got to talk through that. Be offended, right? It's okay to have those feelings, but don't let that offense turn into something bigger and meaner and nastier, right? Work through it. Let it out, let it go, right? And talk through somebody so that y'all can move forward and y'all can grow stronger. And more often than not, right, when you do actively process those offenses together, you grow together, right? You grow tighter and bonder because you've worked through the situation. Whereas when you let that fester, it drags the friendship apart, right? So process through the offense, right? So we got to start with courageous honesty, right? Be honest. Do not lie. Do not deceive. Remember. Let's look back to our amplified version of that, of verse 26. Therefore, rejecting all falsehood, whether lying, defrauding, telling half-truth, spreading rumors, or any such of these, right? It's that refusal to manipulate and deceive. And then through that, we got to be willing to and ready to process the offense that you may cause or that causes against you. When somebody offends you, you better be ready to go to them and say, listen, you just said something and it wasn't cool. Like, I don't appreciate that. Let's talk about it calmly. Calmly is the key, right? We can't be upset. We can't be like, what do you think you're doing? No. Hey, I don't like how we handled that situation. Let's talk through this. So there's the starting point of this. And then we go to verse 28 and says this: the thief must no longer steal. Instead, he must do honest work with his own hands so that he has something to share with anyone in need. Now that's a weird. We went straight from truth and honesty and processing the offense to now if you're a thief. Now I don't want to say that you guys are all thieves right out there. However, Paul is saying something to us, right, about friendship, right? We have to be able to work to share, right? Not work to hoard. Okay, this gets a little sticky, right? We as the church must have an attitude of extreme generosity. That anything that I have is yours, and anything you have is mine. If we are a brother and sister in Christ, right? The early church had this was a great example of this generosity. If they had it, they were going to share it. They were going to be able to give it away. Acts chapter 2 displays this probably as clearly as anything else. Acts chapter 2, starting in verse 44, says this. Now all the believers were together and held all things in common, right? All the believers were together and held all things in common. They sold their possessions and property and distributed the proceeds to all, as anyone had need. Every day they devoted themselves to meeting together in the temple complex and broke bread from house to house. They ate their food with joyful and humble attitudes, praising God and having favor with all people. And every day the Lord added to those who were being saved, right? As Christians, nothing you own is yours. And this is where we're going to end today. Nothing you own is yours, right? God has endowed you. He has trusted you with a job maybe and a house and possessions so that we can share them with the world around us, so that we can share Jesus with the world around us, right? Godly friendships do not ask the question, what can I take? Godly friendships say, how can I serve those nearest to me? How can I serve my friends better, right? Carly Stinson, if you're watching this, you are a great example here. With your minivan, right? You're hilarious when you show up on Sunday nights and you have the caravan of people, but you've found a way that you can take what you have and you can share it with others, and I'm so appreciative of that. And I know a lot of you are doing similar things. You are sharing what you have. Godly friendships really do give away, and I as a family, we try to be the same way. And you can ask anyone who's close to us, and we if I have it, it's yours. You can use it, you can share it. I don't want to be known as the person that hoards my things. I want to be the person that gives things away so that the glory of God can be seen. And so we work hard, but we work hard so that we can share with others. So this week, as you go out, I want you to try two things. First, if you're offended, right? Courageous honesty, followed by being able to process that. Being able to process the offense when it comes. It's okay to be offended, remember that, but be able to process the offense. But also, start viewing your possessions as gifts from God. And how can you share with those around you what you have to glorify God better? So look into that. Think about that with me. How can we begin to share with what we have, especially in the season where we're celebrating that which God has shared with us, his son? So love you guys. Talk to you soon. Have a good one.